Hi, it's What If Wednesday time with Susan Bennett Fisher and Martin Fisher, the co-founders of Body of Nine. What if you knew what Susan and Martin knew when we wrote our book, The Body of Nine, Decode Your Physiology and Discover Your True Self. So at that time when we wrote that book, we wrote down everything we knew about Body of Nine.
Yeah, we'd spent 7-8 years physically working with about 7,500 people, but identifying probably upwards of 12,000 people by the time we looked at thousands and thousands of pictures of celebrities, people we knew. So we did a lot of work to understand how the physiology and your natural number combine.
Yes, and we were fortunate to do a lot of that work at festivals where people were wearing less clothes. So we really learned the specific aspects of the body. That was so powerful to have. You know, one year at Burning Man, I did 110 natural number ones, and I was doing 10 or 15 a day. Yeah. And the similarity, I mean, they'd stand in front of me and boom, it would just go on. And it was just incredible how when you know how to activate the natural numbers in your body, you can build these instantaneous relationships at the soulless, deepest level with the people that you're interacting with.
And then hours and hours of wonderful conversations with people, trying to distill what is the nature of each of the natural numbers, trying to distill how did people wish they were raised, because you're not raised by people of the same natural number, because your parents are not the same natural number as you are. And so that book was written with a huge amount of input from a vast array of people that really gave us of their time and their attention and their honesty.
Yes, and what we learned is that, one of the things we learned, one of many, is that natural number crosses culture, race, nationality, your gender, all of these things. Your natural number, if you have the same natural number as somebody else, you communicate in the same way, you move from the same part of the body.
How you decode,
doesn't matter.
How you decode your inputs from your senses is very, very, very consistent to the smallest detail by natural number.
And in between natural numbers, it's completely different. Like, you have no idea how the people that you love in your family are actually experiencing life until you can learn to activate the other natural numbers in your body. And then you get a baby view.
Yeah.
Just a little baby view. But you can actually learn to cultivate relationship by creating that activation in your body to acknowledge and meet others more deeply in that place. And that's something that we really learned to do in order to write our book as well, as we learned to be with other people. And, it's interesting, and I think about it, I'm the more physically based as a natural number 6, an even number, and Martin is more spiritually or unembodiedly based.
Non-body physical.
As a 5. And the way I would create relationship with people was through the identification process in a physical way. And then he would talk to them and he would ask them questions, and he would feel his natural number 5 special gift. He could feel what they needed him to say to them, and he could feel what was needed in their relationship. And so he learned to combine his 5 with his ability to be with other people through conversation and words.
To learn what is the core of each of the natural numbers, because Susan came up with the term physio-spiritual, which I think is an absolutely wonderful description of how the even numbers and the odd numbers work together. And each of us has a physio-spiritual component. The even numbers have a slightly higher physio component, and the odd numbers rather have a slightly spiritual component. But we are all physio-spiritual human beings. We've been lucky enough as a 5 and 6 couple to be able to do the work that we've done that led to this book. And it's, as Susan said, it's very much about listening and building the context, the framework of everyone's experience. We can intellectually, I think any of us can understand intellectually when we say, well, certain natural numbers experiences the world this way, but the intellectual understanding is not the same as having the physical experience of the way that world works.
Also, learning to translate.
Yes.
So we all use the same language, but there's words like intuition, engagement, connection, energy, grounding. These words we throw about have actually 9 different meanings.
Yes, for example, natural number 5, I ground. by sitting upright, which is
And yes, connecting up.
which is so different than
8
which connects down.
from the low back all the way down to the ground, and they all actually draw the power into their bodies from the earth. I, as a 6, draw the energy from the world around me through my chest, and that's my way of grounding, is to lift and expand, and that brings me more present and grounds me in the space. Also presence, we talk a lot about presence. Some of the natural numbers have a harder time with being present. Some don't even know what that means. But as a 6, when they started talking about presence out in the world, I realized that I'm just present unless I'm in a state of anxiety. So if I'm in a state of anxiety and I'm not thinking about this moment, otherwise, but if I'm in my body and in my 6, I'm present. That is actually the skill of 6.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to be unpresent,
Yes.
not to learn to be present. So there's this putting on of other what works for us that goes out in the world, and so that's something to be importantly aware of.
Yes, we actually had to learn to identify each of the senses in our body and activate those senses. And we couldn't do what we do unless we'd learned how to activate each of the senses. And we continue to expand our learning on how to activate the senses, because it isn't until you've experienced all 9 senses in your body that your body actually is able to get to what I'm going to refer to as the next level. There is, I believe, an evolutionary step by learning to activate all 9 in our bodies. I think we were meant to do that. I think we've moved away from that thousands of years ago, perhaps. But the ability to activate all 9 doesn't make you a superhuman. It makes you a calm, self-governing human.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Calm, present, at choice, and you stop causing suffering to yourself.
Right. Yes, the more natural numbers you have in your body, the less you live in fear. The world isn't perfect, but the ability to deal with the world gets easier, even in times that are not so great, and you get to enjoy times that are great even better, I think.
Yes, and it can assist your recovery from trauma. We don't talk about, you don't use Body of 9 to heal your trauma. There are other systems out there, I think, that are better for specifically healing trauma. But it's so helpful to know how did that trauma affect you because of your natural number. So if you are a body-based natural number, that trauma affects you really differently, because if you go out of your body, you don't know how to get back into your body. You've lost your primary strength. Yeah. If you're an unembodied person who gets, you're already unembodied, so it has a different impact. So understanding how do you recover is really helpful with your body, your natural number.
And we learned about shame, fear, and disappointment and how they sit in different parts of our body. We learned all the relationships between the numbers. We learned how to anticipate things based on people's natural numbers and the relationship of the numbers.
So if you knew what we knew about that, it's really informative. Yeah. There's a predictive quality to any 2 numbers in combination. There's classic repetitive beauty and classic repetitive challenge that comes with any 2 combinations.
The other thing we learned, and hence I'm not smiling because it's not funny, we learned that people are not honored. We learned that people aren't seen. We learned that most people are in some level of pain because they have not been acknowledged for who they are. We've learned that people suffer, and it's mostly self-imposed. Well, most is the wrong word, I apologize. Yes. There is a lot of self-imposed suffering, and it is because we don't know who we are. We can't connect to ourselves. We've lost our magic. And I think there's many of us that understand that we've lost our magic. Before I started with Susan and Body of 9, I wasn't as happy. I knew there was something missing. I'd given up on trying to find it. But I think hundreds, thousands of people we've talked to acknowledge that it actually helps get back to what was missing, the more that is in life.
Yeah, I think it's not uncommon for people when they're young, but young, I say 12 and under, to have some sort of powerful, usually between the age of 8 and 12, a powerful spiritual awakening, noticing. Something happens and you feel into the power of who you are, and it can be quite astounding and beautiful and frightening at the same time. And if that is not acknowledged and nurtured when that initial waking up of our spiritual nature that naturally happens, I think, between 8 and 12 to 13, 14. If that's not supported, it goes back to sleep.
And how can it be supported by parents that don't see and experience the world that way?
Right.
If I'd
no idea that it even exists.
If I'd gone to my parents when I had my experience when I was about 11 and a half, 12 years old, they wouldn't have understood where I was coming from. My father was probably a 6, wouldn't get it at all. And my mother, well, not in her purview to understand that or support that. So,
well, but if you talk to your mother about her young experiences, she has a whole set of spiritual experiences that she doesn't talk about to very many people.
Yep. Yep.
You know, so it's like it gets so closed down, our access to this magical, beautiful part of who we are that comes with our bodies.
Yeah.
And so if you understand that, that's, I think, you know, in some ways the most powerful part of this was just to be returned to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the reasons we keep doing this, because of the gift that it gives back to you. We are not the body of 9 people. We are just the body of 9 caretakers. We are here to get this information out to the world so that people can have a better life. It's that simple.
Right, and we're not here to tell you what to do with it either. I mean, we've talked about we're now focusing on partnering with coaches and holistic practitioners, and people have other modalities to help you, you know, supercharge this part of who you are, so that they can build the relationship and they can do the support that you need. Because finding out your natural number is actually just the first step. Yeah. Then you have to learn. You get to learn. To love yourself again through this deep awareness of self.
And even once you've been identified, it helps you understand who you are, but it really doesn't help you understand your magic until you've learned to identify the others. Then you realize, wow, these are the things that only I can do, and isn't that amazing?
Yes. That activation reveals something that you didn't know existed, and so now you can honor that in the other person. You know, we have a natural number 7 daughter, and she, since she was young, always creating change, always standing up for the best for everybody. And if we hadn't known that, we wouldn't have been able to support that in her. And so our magic is so important, and to be able to receive that from our children and our loved ones and our partners and our parents and our workplace and our colleagues and our friends, that ability to receive what that person is offering instead of just getting ticked off about it is really important.
And I hope there's many people that really want to make a difference in the world. And you can make a difference by what you do.
And who you are.
But you can make an even bigger difference by recognizing others and helping them make a difference too. And that's something that you get out of Body of 9. You can make a difference with yourself by activating your own natural number. But honoring others for who they are, and honoring them for not being like you, and honoring them for following their path, for increasing their own honoring, if you will. That makes a huge difference, and it is so easy just to honor everybody you meet. It's so hard as well.
It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It's like, oh God, here we go again. You know, it's
everybody has their stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And our nurture lays on top of that nature, and that nurture is often the thing that's irritating people.
Yeah.
That if you get back below the nurture and into the nature, the level of the true beauty, all of a sudden that comes forward. You know, because you know, 6s can be, I always talk about us being loud and fast. Well, that's only irritating if we're off base with the energy. So if I get really loud and fast just because I'm all excited and I'm riding the energy and I've left you behind, yeah, I'm going to be irritating. But if I don't, if I sync with the energy, then the pace and the volume is perfectly appropriate.
Yes. And that's, you know, if we sync with our environment, if we know how to even listen to our environment, it's so much easier.
And our bodies and our environment and our spiritual nature.
Yep.
They're not separable.
We are not separate human beings. There are not 4 parts to a human being. There's one part that works in different areas.
Yes, I think science has done us a disservice in how we think about that.
Yes.
That only through anecdotal, repetitive observation, which we have done to establish the natural numbers. But there's this esoteric part of this that is not acceptable because it's not measurable in some way today.
Yeah. Example I always use is back in the 1800s, Hertz decided or predicted that there would be radio waves, but no one had ever seen or heard of a radio wave. There wasn't even a way to detect radio waves for 20 or 30 years afterwards. Just because you can't detect something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And I would actually argue that our human bodies can detect it.
Yes.
That we are detecting it all the time. It's just never been defined. And that's really what Body of 9 is, a context for you to understand how your body is equipped, what you can do, what the special, unique gifts, power, specialness of you is, and how that's different from the other 9 natural numbers.
So what did we learn? What did we know when we wrote the book? We knew there were possibilities. We knew there were things that are out there that many people weren't aware of. We knew that we could be better as human beings. We knew that there was a need to get this information out there, and we knew that we would always keep on learning. The book is not the end. It is not the sum total of the knowledge now. It's the sum total of the knowledge
last October,
which is over a year ago now.
We keep learned quite a bit since then. So there'll be a new book out at some point.
Yeah.
Probably not for another year, but that's okay. This one will hold us.
This one will hold us.
So it is a complete and total context of everything we knew at that time.
Yeah.
Everything we had distilled from all of our almost 30 years of combined research, the 8,000 people that we've had conversations with, the groups that we've studied with, the people we've taught to learn to activate that process. So that book distills all that into a structure that can help you understand what we're talking about and why it's important.
And it is important.
It's really important.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to know this information and so grateful to be able to go out there and share it and teach it. So transformative. And every time, there's stages to transformation.
Yes.
You don't just all of a sudden transform and then you're this amazing person. That doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I would like that. But
any more than you can pick up a tennis racket and go walk on the tennis court.
Right. So you have to practice.
Yep.
You have to build your skills.
You have to know the rules of the game.
So what do they say, 7 years to master something, or 7 million times? You have to do it.
10,000 hours
I don't know
or
what
whatever.
the statistics are, but the point is, this is not different than that from that perspective. And that's what we do. We practice activating. We practice identifying. We practice looking at people's bodies, the way they're structured.
We talk to people.
We talk to people.
We listen.
We listen. And that is what has built the infrastructure of what we know so far. And it's a lot, 334 pages of information about Body of 9 and this reality of our experience as human beings. And so if you knew what we know, well, you can read the book and know most of what we know. There's a lot of nuance, though.
And you can always help us know more.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we remain committed to is we're launching a brand new program in January for coaches, holistic practitioners, or anybody that just wants to learn to teach this work. And it's a very exciting program. If you want to have a conversation with us about it, we're doing 30-minute consults for people that are ready to go all in with their own transformation. Oh yeah, I want to circle back around to transformation. So what happens is you become discontent, and something happens to cause you to search a little bit or question or do a little journey work or whatever your thing is. And then you have a breakthrough. And then now you're at a new level and you feel great. It's wonderful and all that. And then you go along at that level for a while until you hit that discontent again. And you have to be ready and brave. Each step requires this tremendous bravery for whatever you're letting go of, because you have to let go of something to create something new, which our sevens teach us.
And you have to be able to accept new things. You have to not disbelieve. Yeah. And the more you don't disbelieve, the more that magic becomes reality.
Yep. Because, if you get stuck in your rut, over and over and over, and you never change anything from the rut, eventually you get pretty damn bored.
Yes.
It gets pretty boring. Or you get sad or depressed or disappointed. So our emotions, when we're in that rut, become really hard. And when you recognize those emotions that are hard, you're ready for a transition. You're ready for something new. So we would urge you to learn to activate another natural number.
Yes.
That can get you out of the rut. And if you do that 8 other times, that moves you to another level of awareness and transformation.
Yep.
And every time we kind of do this work, we'll go off and do some journey work or something. We come back and nothing's the same.
Nothing's the same. And that's exciting.
Yeah. And it wasn't what we expected. It wasn't necessarily what we wanted. but it is what we needed and what the universe was knew we were ready to receive.
Wise action and courage.
Yes, as part of this process of transformation. Yeah. And that's in our old book, our Practices for Presence, which is coming out as a second edition and now available on Amazon. So if you want to explore the practices that you need to support your transformation, that's in our first book. Mm-hmm. So we want to share with you. We want you to know this about yourselves, your loved ones, and we want to support you in your transformation to a more cosmic, physio-spiritual being. Yeah.
And if you want to have an even bigger impact on other people, this is a great way to do it.
And you want to have better relationships and be happier.
Yeah.
All that comes.
We guarantee you'll be happier.
Yep, we do. We make that guarantee if you do any work whatsoever with your natural number. And we're just super excited for what's coming next year and the people that have chosen to be partners with us. Yep. And that's probably enough for today.
Yeah. So good to talk to you again.
Yep.
Look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Yeah. Next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye for now.